Hello, true believers. Welcome to my channel, Mr. Miracle Comics. My name is Dave, and today we have 5 more undervalued comic books for us to take a look at. All right, so I was going to bring this book up in today's list, but it actually made the trending 20. It's a book I brought up way back then, um, back when the first rumor of Kang started coming out and everybody was FOMOing on Avengers 8. I was telling people to buy this book. I'm not putting it into the top 5, just a reminder that these ones are actually a pretty good Kang spec, right? So this one showed up on Trending 20 last week, and this one showed up this week. This is part of the Celestial Madonna story, probably one of the greatest comic book stories ever written. Definitely has a lot to do with Kang and Kang's history. Here in Avengers, Giant Size Avengers #2 is where Kang and Ramatat and Immortus are all retconned into being one person, right, that is traveling through time. And it's a crazy story where Ramatat, but future Ramatat, goes back in time because he's tired of being a conqueror. He goes back in time to ancient Egypt, becomes a benevolent leader in being the pharaoh there. Remembers that Kang Prime is going to try and get the Celestial Madonna, so he puts himself in suspended animation so that his future self sleeps forward in time, only to wake up when Kang Prime goes back in time. And Kang Prime is a past self of Ramatat at this point, goes back in time. They wake up and they have a fight. This is all manipulated by Immortus, who's also a Kang variant, and they all work it out, and Ramatat helps the Avengers stop himself from acquiring the Celestial Madonna. If Kang gets his hands on the Celestial Madonna, he can have a very powerful being who is going to be her son. He can also use that power to wake up the dreaming Celestial, which is the Celestial that's inside of Earth and would destroy Earth. So, lots to do. This story is crazy, very convoluted, but makes sense, and it's well written and great. It begins here in 120 Avengers 129, continues in Giant Size Avengers #2 and 3. Whew. Anyway, that's not one of our ones. I just think there's still a lot of room to grow in that book. When we were watching Loki, when they were talking about He Who Remains and Eliath, when they opened up in that castle in the clouds and stuff, that was all part of He Who Remains backstory, and they kind of mixed the two of them to be, he didn't reveal who he was. I mean, to me, it seemed like he was Immortus in that in the castle, but um, but when I saw that castle, and I was like, oh, it's going to be He Who Remains, because that was kind of part of his continuity. So I was glad when they retconned it into something else. And it was really smart of them to pull lots of elements out of the comic book backstories and put it in there. So I would think, if they're going to keep doing that, pulling out comic book elements, the Celestial Madonna was definitely a big motivation for Kang for a lot of stuff that he did in order to, take over and conquer not only Earth but the entire multiverse. So I'm glad that made the top 20. Glad people are finally paying attention to Giant Size Avengers #2, and hopefully, if you've been following my channel for a while, you already had those books for super cheap from well over a year and a half ago, I think. Long before Jonathan Majors was cast into any kind of role in that and everything. Anyways, let's get on with our top 5 for this week, or undervalued 5 for this week, and we're going to continue on with some that multiverse spec and what happened with the Loki streaming show. And I am going to pick up this guy, which is our newest book on the list, and it comes from 2015, and it is Secret Wars #1, but the second series from 2015. Right there's a variant cover. There's a bunch of variants for this one, a whole bunch of variants for this one. Reason I'm picking this as an undervalued book, if you're looking at what's going on with the multiversal war, and a whole bunch of people are like, it's setting up Secret Wars, and they all jumped on the 1984 series, but that's not really how the 1984 series plays out. In this Secret Wars, all the multiverse are in a big war and they are destroyed, and in order to, in a last-ditch effort to save any part of it, they get formed into Battle World, right? Which is a whole bunch of different dimensions with different variant characters, kind of controlling different parts that came from different multiverses, right? So if we're looking at multiverse war, if we're looking at, variant characters and all that kind of stuff, it definitely, to me, seems like it's going to lend more to the 2015 series than the 1984 series. And I'm not saying don't buy the 1984 series if you can. If you come across some cheap copies from that series, there's definitely some great specs in there. I definitely want to buy that one, but I really feel like if they're doing that multiversal war, if they're going Secret Wars kind of direction, that they would, it's more likely that they will go this direction with the way things have been playing out so far. So I bought this copy just the other day for $6, right? I had this one just off the shelf from 2015, so I only paid cover price for that. This hasn't really moved in price. It's pretty high print run for a newer book. Like I said, there is a ton of variants for this one. Variants, of course, depending on availability, 1 in 25 or 100, they have some different pricing there, but for the A cover, you're definitely still going to pay cover price for a near mint copy. This is an absolutely beautiful copy here. Barely paid over cover price for it. Figured it was worth the $6. It's a bigger issue. It has more pages than a normal issue in it. Of course, they were kicking off the whole Secret Wars event here. Yeah, but I think, very good spec book that you can still buy a near mint copy for cover price, right? Well worth putting in my collection, because you never know if things just keep going the way they're going. It really does seem to me like this is the Secret Wars sort of storyline that they're heading towards, not the 1984 one. All right, so from 2015, first multiverse war, and that would be Secret Wars #1. All right, look to pay cover price, maybe $1 or $2 more than that. Okay, so continuing on, number 2 on our list, it comes from 1986. This is Transformers the movie #1. And this has the first appearance of a character called Akri. And she, that's her right there on the cover, is the first female Transformer. Marvel kind of had a weird thing with not wanting the Transformers to really have gender, so they didn't put her into continuity right away. I don't think she hit continuity until she was with IDW, but this movie adaptation is a little different. A lot of stuff that happens in the movie did make it into the comic books, right? So, yeah, and like directly and right away into the comic books as well. So, this also has the first appearance of like Unicron, Rodimus Prime, Ultra Magnus. So a bunch of the characters that made their first appearance in the movie obviously make their first appearance in the movie adaptation, and a lot of those characters carried forward into the regular Transformers continuity. Movie adaptations tend not to go for as much, like even if it's a first appearance in there, people are more interested in the continuity first appearance, and I guess the only other place that we've seen in sort of a continuity appearance of Akri would have been here in Headmasters #1, which was a limited series but was continuity, and Akri is in it. I'm still more interested in this guy. Really nice copies of this book can easily be found for the $5 to $15 range, depending where you're going. I think it's still worth it. This is, like I said, it's not quite the same as a regular movie adaptation. This one did have a lot of direct effect on the main continuity story. I know Akri didn't quite make it in there right away because they were, not interested in having her as a her, right? They weren't interested in gendering out the Transformers. Plus, I think they thought that the pink sort of more roundish sort of toy wouldn't sell well, right? So they were a little bit hesitant with Hasbro and stuff about making toys for her as well. Anyway, she is going to be in the next Transformers movie. She ended up becoming one of the part of the Beast Wars, right? She was changed into a spider, right, and became part of that sort of continuity with Beast Wars and stuff. So she is set to be in the next Transformers movie, which revolves around Beast Wars. I think, for $5 you can find this one. It may take off. The public might see this as, never mind with a movie adaptation, we're going to go look for her continuity first appearance, which, I would have to find that one out myself. But anyway, yeah, from 1986, you can find this book for $5 to $15. And yeah, I think it's still good to have her first appearance, especially with her coming up in a movie here. Yeah, so from 1986, Transformers, the movie adaptation, number 1, first appearance of Acre, on the other hand, right there. Good deal. Let's go back to the 70s. Yeah, everybody knows I love Bronze Age comics, so let's do that. And let's do something, we haven't got too much of this going, but I think it's about time that we start. And that would be some She-Hulk spec, right? We have a She-Hulk show coming up. Getting there rather fast, and hasn't really popped up on the radar other than her first appearance, which I have behind me. I will pull it out there. That had got really hot, but they are, cast and, crews done, and there's filming. And so it's going to be, one of those shows that are going to drop. Disney's going to drop all these shows. There's so much. There's 5 more Disney Marvel properties coming out this year alone. And that doesn't include the Star Wars one, like the Book of Boba Fett and, other properties that they're going to have with Star Wars. So this book, I figure, is a good place to start. They've talked a lot about, it being more comedy, revolving around her being a lawyerish sort of show. So that kind of lends me to think more of the sensational She-Hulk, as well as, some of her later series that came out. If they're going to do the sensational She-Hulk, immediately when I think of that series, I think of these guys. And I think from 1976, their first appearance is here in Defenders number 21. And that is the first appearance of the Hedman. Now, the Hedman are all, well, except with the exception of one, are all Golden Age characters that got brought forward, and this is their first team-up appearance. They're a really absurd group of villains. Gorilla Man, Shrunken Bones, and Chandu the Mystic, right, are all part of the Hedman. But yeah, they make their first team appearance here in Defenders number 21. So yeah, I think it'd be great to see the Hedman in a streaming show like the She-Hulk. Gorilla Man definitely, screwed with She-Hulk quite a bit in the sensational She-Hulk series. He was kind of one of the main antagonists at the beginning of that series, for sure. So if they are going to start pulling stuff out of, the sensational She-Hulk series, I would like to see the Hedman, and I think, they're probably going to make, well, I don't know. I don't want to say probably, but I think it would be a good choice to pick the Hedman. I think there's a good chance that they'll pick the Hedman as some sort of, a little bit of craziness going on in the She-Hulk. If they're going to try and do more of that comedy stuff. She was a fourth wall breaker like Deadpool. I don't know if they'll go that far with it. But, if they're wanting to do a little more comedy, a little more of the absurd that kind of happened in the sensational She-Hulk series, the Hedman is a great place to start. So from 1976, you can look to pay around $5 to $15 for a decent copy of this book right now. If you find like a really nice, near mint copy and somebody's asking, 25 or 30 bucks, I think that's worth it. Most of the time you're going to look for a very fine issue, somewhere around the $15 range. This is not on anybody's real radar right now. Again, you have to know your comic history. You have to be I've been collecting comics for over 40 years now, so I know my comic history, and yeah, I would I think for $5 to $15 this is a good spec choice. So from 1976, Defenders number 21. Look to pay $5 to $15 for this bad boy. First team appearance of the Hedman. Not any of their first appearance, like I said. They were all Golden Age characters that kind of got retconned forward. I think even Gorilla Man's first appearance is Marvel Comics #1, which is one of the most expensive comics that you could possibly collect. Definitely not going to make it onto the 5 undervalued list. Okay, so let's continue on. And like I said, they were all those Hedman were Golden Age characters that got brought forward, with the exception of this character. And she makes her first appearance in from 1976 as well. It is the Defenders, number 32. Dun dun dun. And this has the first appearance of Ruby Tuesday. Ruby Tuesday is one of the Hedman. She's kind of Gorilla Man henchman kind of deal. She's got a big round red head with tentacles that come out of it. She's like this crazy looking character. I would love to see some sort of CGI character of Ruby Tuesday. I think that would be a really cool character to have actually put onto the screen. Of course, yeah, and she completes the She-Hulk Hedman that were her antagonists as well. Yeah, I bought this one for $5. It can easily be found for around that $5 to $15 range again. Good book to have. I think Ruby Tuesday showing up, I said she would be an awesome looking character in CGI with the tentacles and everything and her big red face. She's crazy looking, but it may very well land into some sort of She-Hulk kind of property because, yeah, she is so crazy looking and definitely a big part of the Hedman and definitely, you know, a thorn in She-Hulk's side. So, again, from 1976, it is the Defenders, number 32. First appearance of Ruby Tuesday. She-Hulk's back. Look to pay around $5 to $15, depending on condition, for a raw copy of that book. Awesome. And finally on our list, we have Kang spec. Kang books have been crazy right now. People are FOMOing about Kang all over the place. After he showed up at the end of Loki, of course. Well, it wasn't exactly Kang, but we know that Jonathan Majors has been cast in that role, so to see the actor show up, you know, he didn't mention who he was, but people have speculated all over the place. We know that there's going to be, he is cast in Quantumania. However, Quantumania doesn't come out until 2023, which means that we will get the second season of Loki before that happens. So there could be quite a movement with that Kang. Also a good possibility that we'll see him in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, if they're going to try and, you know, continue bring that in. You know, to what degree, I don't know. But, you know, if Doctor Strange is dealing with the multiverse, could very well end up being with Kang. As well, you know, there's a whole bunch of rumors about the multiverse stuff and, you know, the next Spider-Man movie, so he might even show up in that, No Way Home. Whew. However, let's deal with this part of it. And I am going to bring up this one, and it is Avengers number 293. Comes from 1988. And this has a bunch of first appearances of different variant Kangs, right? So Chairman Kang is his first appearance in here. First appearance of Kang Kong. First appearance of Kang Cobra. It furthers the story about Renova Renslayer and her whole involvement with the Kangs and the Cross-Time Council of Kangs and the Council of Kangs and the Terminix objective and all kinds of stuff that go on to further her narrative as well. Great book to have, really under the radar right now. Went and looked today. Price of this book, lots of this book on there for under $10. Most of them hitting around the $5 mark. Might be able to go to your LCS and dig it out if you're near a good comic shop. This is a whole era of Avengers. Is totally, in my opinion, you know, underappreciated, undervalued. This was some great writing, some great illustrations that happened in Avengers during the late 80s. People were buying up comics like crazy back then, of course. So this does have a fairly high print run, but a lot of these things just got trashed. Wasn't really collected that much. So I don't know. It'd be tough to say how many of these still exist out there. However, we're not concerned about that. We're only concerned about getting our copy into our collection, right? So Yeah, I think with all the variants that are coming up, with what they're talking about with multiverse, what they're doing, all this stuff, that this book is very much overlooked right now. And like I said, it has a bunch of first appearance of different variant Kangs that may show up in the second season of Loki, depending how they're going to play out that story. I mean, it ended on such a big cliffhanger that obviously they're going to have Jonathan Majors back, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff happening. And well, we got 6 episodes last time, so hopefully we'll at least get 6 more. I'd like to see 8. That'd be great, but I'm only banking on it getting another 6. Anyways, they have confirmed the Loki second season, and I believe they are going to start filming it in January, which should make it drop sometime late fall of 2022, possibly. Maybe around Christmas time. Anyway, we will, yeah, definitely like to see some more variants of Kang popping out. Okay, so Avengers number 293 from 1988. Look to pay around the $5 to $15 mark. Lots of variant appearances of different Kangs in that one. Whew. So that's been the 5 undervalued for this week. I really appreciate everybody that's been watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, that's the thing that can help me out the most. Views are great. I really appreciate everybody that watches my channel, but subscribers are actually what drives your channel better. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. I won't spam your channel with a bunch of dumb things. Simply, we're going to keep going with our deep specs. And yeah, if you don't want to miss a video, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button for me, and I really appreciate it. This has been Mr. Miracle Comics. My name is Dave. Just reminding everybody, Wednesdays are new comic book day, but every day is old comic book day. I'll see you next video. Thanks for watching.